The time for the talk in New England Patriots preseason is over, but who's going to get the start on Sunday against the Washington Commanders? Stick around. You're about to be locked in to the Locked On Patriots podcast.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all of you Foxborough faithful. Thank you once again for making Locked On Patriots a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage. Don't forget, Locked On Patriots is not only a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, but we are also free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So smash that subscribe button and download and follow Locked On Patriots wherever you're getting your podcasts to ensure you get the latest episode as soon as it's available. I'm your host, Mike Debate. I cover your New England Patriots for Patriots Country of Athlon Sports. So reach out to me and let me know what's on your mind on X, on Zitter, on Twitter, whatever you want to call it these days, at MDABATE NFL. And if you're out there on social media showing some love to Locked On Patriots, follow our account there as well at LO_Patriots. And Pats fans, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And Pats fans, thank you for joining me here today on this episode. A little extra special is this episode today because not only are we going to help you get ready for the Patriots preseason finale against the Washington Commanders in the nation's capital on Sunday night, it's going to help get you ready and get you psyched for post-game. That's right. You heard correctly. Across the Locked On platform here on the network, immediate post-game postcasts are going to be available right here on your subscription feed. And, of course, Locked On Patriots is proud to be a part of that initiative. Today, it's my honor, my privilege to introduce you to the host of the Locked On Patriots Postcast, a gentleman you're going to be seeing a lot of here on these airwaves, but he is already a revered host here on the network. You know him as the host of Locked On Baylor. He is my colleague, my friend, Cam Stuart. Cam, not only welcome to the Locked On Patriots podcast, but welcome to the Locked On Patriots family, my friend.
Oh, thank you so much, Mike. It's great to be a part of this. You know, I cover Baylor every day. I know it's a very weird house divided flag, Patriots, Baylor. I am from Massachusetts originally. My whole family's still there. So I've been a Patriots fan a lot longer than I've been a Baylor fan. So this kind of feels like coming full circle just a little bit, you know, to cover the teams that I'm watching every week without getting paid to do so. So this is going to be a ton of fun. I can't wait. This season will be interesting. That's for sure.
It truly will. And you know what? At the very least, Cam, we're going to help to make it a lot more fun here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's definitely an honor to share the microphone with you. And knowing that the postcast is going to be in such capable hands is definitely an honor for me. And it's definitely a source of happiness for me as well. So Cam, why don't we dive right into the stories of the day? Let's get right into it. And where else are we going to start? The quarterback position. Drake Maye started training camp by saying he did not envision a scenario where Jacoby Brissett was not going to be the starting quarterback. Well, Maye spoke to the media on Friday morning, said that Jacoby Brissett is going to get the start in this game, but that Drake is going to play, Joe Milton's going to play, Bailey Zappi is going to play. So a lot of quarterback observation is going to be had on Sunday night. When you look at this quarterback competition from inception to where we are right now, what has stood out to you? What surprised you? And ultimately, what do you think is going to be the outcome when all is said and done and the Patriots are ready for the regular season, bud?
Well, there's two questions that have kind of stuck in my head throughout this whole training camp and really throughout the last couple of days more so. And the first one is, how bad was Drake Maye at the beginning of this camp? Like how far has he come in this journey in these couple of weeks? Or was it just because the media, some of them that were out there, not you, Mike, that were saying, this kid stinks. He was supposed to be further along than this. has he made great strides? Like, has this been a meteoric rise the last week, or were they just way out ahead of their skis a few weeks ago of thinking where Drake Maye needs to be? So that's the first question. And of course, he did look good in the game that we all got to see last week. You know, I know a lot of this is coming about how he does in these practice reps, specifically joint practice reps, like the ones we saw against the Eagles. And speaking of reps, that is my other big question. Has he been getting enough quality reps? I know you come into this camp and you say, hey, Jacoby Brissett's our starter. He is the veteran guy. He's who we're going to roll with for now. We're not going to throw Drake Maye into the fire. I love that. That's fine, right? That's a way to do it, I think. And then, you know, as we're winding down camp, it's like, oh man, the kid looks good. And Jacoby Brissett, when everyone was watching the other day, really didn't look good. So could we see Drake Maye earlier than before? Well, then the question becomes, has he gotten enough reps to do that? Has he gotten enough reps with the ones behind the number one offensive line? I know you got some more in joint practice than you would have beforehand, but it's like, has the kid got quality reps with the ones out there, with the receivers and backs that he's actually going to be playing with and throwing to? Now that becomes the big question for me, because you've thrown in this plan of, hey, we're not throwing him out there right away. And if he is ready, quote unquote, ready to go week 1 or week 2, which I think is still unlikely, you're saying, okay, go. I know you've had, you know, a quarter of the reps that Jacoby Brissett has had with these guys, but go out there, sling it, kid. And so those are the two questions that kind of have bumped up with me the last few days or so. And you can only take so much out of a preseason game versus what they're seeing in practice. But Jacoby Brissett did not look like a good NFL quarterback in that matchup against the Eagles, and we know just an okay NFL quarterback at best. So I still don't think Drake Maye is the week 1 guy, but he's certainly making it interesting the last week and a half or so.
Absolutely. And I think you made some great points. And to answer your questions, the questions that you had in terms of the progressions that I've seen on the football field, TC McCartney and Alex Van Pelt, when they spoke to the media on Thursday, answered each of those questions in different ways. We'll start with how Drake made these progressions, what type of progress he's made from the time that he first stepped on the field in rookie mini camp, and then in mini camp, and then to training camp, and now into the preseason games. Drake came in as a quarterback that was not afraid to gun the ball down the field, always look for the big play, always try to make things happen, not necessarily look for the check down, not necessarily look for the fundamentals that you need as an NFL quarterback to succeed. He was really going to rely on his God-given talent. That arm is definitely a weapon, and it's an asset for him, but also his ability to kind of scramble and use his athleticism to make plays. What the Patriots have done, and I think what McCartney especially, Van Pelt, I also want to put Ben McAdoo into that because he is a big part of the quarterback progression. What they've done is they've allowed him to tie his eyes to his feet and really improve his mechanics, and that helps improve rhythm. Drake Maye has made significant strides from the time that he first took an NFL snap in a practice setting to where you are now. So everyone that's seeing Drake Maye kind of come alive over the course of the last couple of weeks is because of the strides he's made in his mechanics. I still think there's a ways to go. And if you listen to Alex Van Pelt yesterday, he did make several references to the fact that, yes, there are still issues. This is where Jacoby Brissett comes in. And yes, Jacoby has struggled on occasion in the last couple of weeks. But the one thing that Alex was very careful to say about Jacoby is there are still ways that Jacoby is able to play in this offense, understands the tools that you need to succeed right off the bat, especially with what could be a makeshift offensive line and some struggles there, maybe some wide receivers that are still coming into their own and not ready to mask some of the problems a rookie quarterback may have when it comes to hitting a route or going up and making a contested catch, or a catch maybe a little bit beyond their range. This is where Jacoby can come in, read the pressure situation, especially recognizing pressure at the line of scrimmage, and he can be a little bit better in that game. So to answer your questions there, that's exactly what the Patriots are looking at. And when it comes to the reps, Alex Van Pelt TC McCartney, Gerard Mayo have all said that they would love to see Drake get more reps with the first team offense. He hasn't done that necessarily because Jacoby is indeed the starter. So I think over the course of the next couple of days at practice, whether it's open to the media or not, and especially in this preseason game, you're going to see Drake get some extended look with the ones. They have to see what they have there and then make a decision based on that.
Good. Good. I'm here for it. There is a quality versus quantity thing when it comes to reps. And
Right.
I know now there's question of who makes the call and who is the starting quarterback. That came out of nowhere. But in a lot of other scenarios, you would know Jacoby Brissett exactly what he gives you, and he doesn't need as many first team reps as someone like Drake Maye would. But to the point you brought up in there too, you got some guys battling for skill position spots on this team, and more importantly, it's a makeshift offensive line. So there's only so much you can do there in terms of rotating guys in. I think we'll see a lot of Bailey Zappi on Sunday. See what that trade market is. We'll see.
Absolutely. Hey, who knows? There might be a team ready to bite out there. Some teams right now struggling with depth at quarterback. Some teams looking for a spot starter. Bailey's proven on a number of occasions he can go in and give you a quality start. So it would be interesting if the Patriots do decide to showcase him. But bottom line, folks, keep your eyes peeled and your eyes fixed on the game on Sunday night against the Washington Commanders at 8 p.m. It's going to be telltale, and there's a lot of action and a lot to take from the field. However, one of the things that we've taken from the field already and may actually enhance in our viewing on Sunday night is camp surprises. What storylines have been the biggest eye-openers throughout camp for you, the fans? Well, we want to know what our good friend and colleague here, Cam Stuart, wants to think about that. We're going to find out his biggest camp surprise, and I'll even throw in my own for good measure when this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast continues, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Locked On listeners, what are your self-care non-negotiables? You eat right, get plenty of sleep. When you work out, you never skip leg day. Well, you shouldn't skip therapy day either, because let's face it, when your schedule is packed with activities, big work projects, and more, it's easy to let your priorities slip. Even when we know what makes us happy, it's hard to make time for it. But when you feel like you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. It can truly be helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. Most importantly, it empowers you to be the best version of yourself. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Patriots fans, thank you once again for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots. And we are honored and privileged to welcome our new colleague here on Locked On Patriots, the new host of the Locked On Patriots Postcast, which you can catch this Sunday immediately following the Patriots Commanders preseason matchup. And that is the host of Locked On Baylor, our good friend Cam Stuart. And folks, if you are making us your first listen today, we always thank you. A major tip of the cap to all of you everydayers out there that continue to make Locked On Patriots what it is. You want to make Locked On Patriots your everyday listen. You absolutely want to make Locked On Patriots Postcast your first post-game option. But if you're looking at making your second listen of the day, you definitely want to make it our good friends over at Locked On Fantasy Football. All of our analysts working tirelessly to give you the best strategy so you can win your fantasy league. Locked On Fantasy Football is not only a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, but they are also free and available on all platforms, just like Locked On Patriots. So make sure to download, subscribe, and follow. And of course, Cam, we are talking about the New England Patriots. Training camp wrapping up. The time for the talk is just about over. And now it's time to play the final preseason game. Cam, from the time the Patriots have started training camp to now, there have been a lot of storylines. we've talked about probably the biggest heading into this in the quarterback battle and the quarterback competition between Drake Maye and Jacoby Brissett. But there have been all kinds of storylines on both sides of the ball. There's so much to talk about when it comes to this team. And we haven't even mentioned that a new head coach is going to be leading the Patriots onto the regular season field for the first time in nearly a quarter century. Want to talk about storylines, folks? Keep it right here. New England's full of them. But Cam, I'm going to put you on the hot seat. When you look at this Patriots team, what's been the biggest surprise of yours from the Patriots training camp thus far?
Yeah, I think it's kind of an obvious one, but it truly is the play of the offensive line. And I think that goes back to the way they prioritized it or did not prioritize it in the offseason and specifically through the draft process. But then you see, I know Philadelphia has been one of the best teams at rushing the passer the last few years, specifically that year they went to the Super Bowl. But you saw the joint practice numbers and it was just horrid. And they kind of patched something together for the first half of that game, but it really wasn't that great out in the second half when they still had some ones in there. That to me is the unit that could make the Patriots the team that's picking number one in the 2025 draft. If it is as bad as it has appeared or has been told to us by some of the folks that are out there actually seeing the practice. So to me, that's the biggest storyline. Surprise, I'm not sure. In terms of I'm always, fascinated by guys who are on the fringe of making the team. That's where I'm usually looking towards in training camp, especially when it was the Brady Belichick era and there wasn't much for storylines. So I'm still conditioned to do that. And it is a Baylor guy that I'm looking at. I know that's, Locked On Baylor guy comes on a Locked On Patriots and wants to talk about Baylor, but I went to practice, one of the first practices of the year. I was actually there in person, and there were 3 Baylor Bears out there. And I was like, man, we've never seen this. Maybe one will make the team. And now I'm thinking 2 might make the team, Mike, because I have been impressed both in the preseason games and the practices and when I'm hearing at practices about JaMycal Hasty, the running back who, by the way, I watched. We overlapped almost the exact same time at Baylor. Never was the first, never got the lion's share of the carries in the backfield while he was with the Bears. And he's just kind of hung on for 5 or 6 years in the NFL. And I think he's got a real shot to make this team. That's a position that's got some weird depth for the Patriots at running back. Obviously with Zeke Elliott going back to Dallas. And, we're seeing what you got out of Kevin Harris. It's been a couple of years of that. And JaMycal Hasty has made some nice plays, some nice check down plays in these 2 preseason games. I think he's got a real shot to make this team. And something he's developed in his years in the NFL has been a pass-catching back. And I think the Patriots could really use something like that, especially with this Alex Van Pelt style of offense. And especially seeing that Drake Maye is going to that 3rd or even 4th read in some of these preseason games. I think JaMycal Hasty has a role to play on this team. So I wonder just how much with this style of offense and potentially having a rookie quarterback out there within the next few weeks as your starter, that could be in a pivotal role, a J.R. Redmond type of role, if you will.
Excellent point. I'm so glad that you mentioned Hasty because last week here on Locked On Patriots, I gave a 53-man roster projection, and Hasty was on the team. I had him as the 4th running back on this team behind Kevin Harris, behind Antonio Gibson, and, of course, Ramondre Stevenson as your lead back. And for all the reasons that you described, having a dual-threat back and backs that have that dual-threat capability of not only be able to run for finesse but run for power and also catch the ball out of the backfield, I think the Patriots could possibly roster 4 guys that can do it. And the more the merrier. If you need to stock that positional group with 4 guys, I definitely think it's important, especially because of Alex's reliance on that running game. Stevenson, Gibson, Harris, and now Hasty, who I thought had a very good game against the Eagles. You saw him come alive a little bit. The kid is shifty. He has the ability to break tackles, but he also has the ability to get out there and to catch the ball out of the backfield as well. So I love that being a surprise. I continue to be impressed by him, and I think he will be a member of this team, in my humble opinion. Also, now I look at the offensive line, like you said, and that is a storyline. There's no question about it. The Patriots have had several injuries, whether it be to Cole Strange. He's down now. Vidarian Lowe now has a minor oblique. Wonder if that's going to keep him from the left tackle position that he seemed to have a strangle on. Do they now move Chukwuekorafo over to the left? Is Michael Wenu now going to go over and play right tackle? Layden Robinson, the rookie, has been making a real push lately. He's looked great in the guard position. Is he going to be the right where City So is going to be the left? Yeah, there's so many combinations that could happen here.
And that's not even mentioning the top lineman they picked.
Absolutely.
That's not
Absolutely.
even that.
We haven't even scratched the surface yet when it comes to Caden Wallace, who has been, I think, maybe their most reliable lineman all throughout camp. He's looked great, whether they put him on the right or the left. I think he's more of a natural fit on the right, but if the left is where he's going to be, Patriots need to work with him. So that's a big time storyline to watch. And again, I think it ties into having strong guys at the skill positions. You need strong runners and strong receivers, and a guy like Hasty fits that very well, as does another receiver who seems to be a very polarizing figure here in New England, someone you know very well, another Baylor Bear, and I'm talking about Tyquan Thornton. The blazing speed of Tyquan Thornton. Has the storyline surrounding Tyquan surprised you at all, being a Baylor alum and a host of Locked On Baylor? Has that been a source of surprise for you when it comes to how he's viewed by the media and the fan base here?
Yeah, I do have him on the wall here somewhere. There we go.
For
those of you watching on YouTube. Yeah, so I've been watching Tyquan for a long time. And I will say I'm pleasantly surprised by it, to be totally honest with you. I just – where he was drafted, second round, receiver, Belichick. There's so much that went into that of like, oh boy, here we go again. And George Pickens, who was picked behind him, has a really good rookie year. And it's like, here we go again. Belichick can't draft the receiver. It's this graveyard of second round receivers. And he comes in obviously with the blazing speed, deep ball threat. And I'm like, oh my God, they drafted Bethel Johnson again. I really thought Tyquan was going to be a star, and here we go again. And so I think, to all that to say, it's very easy for Patriots fans and the media to kind of give up on him after 2 years where he's on the IR both years, and he's not getting a lot of attention at all. And yet, especially in that early part of camp, to what you were alluding to, I mean, there was a lot of hype. Man, Tyquan really looks good. This is a different Tyquan. And I just really hope he gets a shot in terms of being healthy, because I think a lot of people saw the 40 time for Tyquan Thornton, and they were like, Bethel Johnson, kind of what I was thinking of. And not, I got to watch him play every college game he played. And he really, by his last year at Baylor, became a receiver, not a burner. He was absolutely receiver, good at contested balls, getting PTSD just saying that, thinking of N'Keal Harry and the report on him coming out of college. He could get open, though. N'Keal Harry couldn't, and was an excellent red zone threat, the way CeeDee Lamb is with Dallas. I'm not saying he's CeeDee Lamb, but that kind of very quick, very easy to win one-on-one on the outside with some real height that can go up and high point a ball. Typical great red zone threat in that. And he was a pretty good blocker in college for a guy who's not very big. And obviously that's probably not going to be quite the same in the NFL. The guys are a little bit bigger, but I think that's some of the things that Belichick saw when they traded up to draft him. So I think there is still something for Tyquan Thornton to do. You know what I mean? It's not the end of the road for him. Now, if he's on IR this year or doesn't produce at all this year, then yeah, we're talking 3 years down the drain and you're probably moving on. But there is still a role for him to play on this team, and there is still a way for him to even exceed that glass ceiling of the low expectations we might put on him this season.
Very well said. And again, Tyquan is impressive, and he has been impressive throughout camp and coming in a little heavier. I'll mea culpa. In my roster projection, I was on the fence so much about including Tyquan among the guys that make this roster and including guys that didn't. I actually left him off in favor of Kayshon Boutte, and it was a very difficult decision for me based on the blazing speed and the improvements I've seen him make. But when you hear the coaches, these guys see things specifically to the team that they believe are indelible qualities. And I think from everything that we've been hearing from the Patriots offensive brain trust, including Drake Maye, who's a big part of that as head coach, these guys are very impressed when it comes to what they've seen from Tyquan Thornton. So who be it from anyone to kind of begrudge them that speed, that ability to go up and make the catch, and his type of skill set, which I believe to be irreplaceable here in New England. I don't think you have another guy on this roster right now that can do what he does when he's on his game. Does make him a guy that I believe will make the roster now. So I will reverse my position on that.
God, I'm that
I
convincing, huh?
will, and I am going to take my criticism for it, for having him on the chopping block the first time around. But I have come around to the cult of Tyquan, and I think he will be a valuable member of this roster this year. And Cam, when we talk about storylines in this game coming up against the Washington Commanders, the preseason finale, what is going to be that first story that you're going to be talking about when the postcast hits the airwaves? We're going to put Cam Stuart back on the hot seat in just a moment, and he'll answer that question when this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast wraps up right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On listeners, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And with the NFL season fast approaching, I know you all out there in Patriots Nation are going to be looking at FanDuel for all of their offerings regarding the Patriots opener against the Bengals, the home opener against the Seahawks, and so much more. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. Patriots fans, thank you for joining me here today on Locked On Patriots. It is an extra special edition here on Locked On Patriots because we are previewing Patriots Commanders, but we are also welcoming into the Locked On Patriots family the new Locked On Patriots Postcast host, also the host of Locked On Baylor here on the Locked On Podcast Network, Cam Stuart. He is a member of La Familia here now on Locked On Patriots, and we're thrilled to have him. He is a true talent, and folks, your post-game coverage you will not want for anything more. Cam's going to deliver and then some. I can't wait for it. But we've talked about so many storylines so far. We've dabbled in the offensive line, receivers, former Baylor players that I know you love to be able to address. We've talked about the quarterbacks, and we've talked about all of that goes into it. But ultimately, you're going to take the microphone when the final whistle hits and the Patriots and Commanders have wrapped up their preseason slate. You're going to be the guy here on the network that's going to deliver the post-game, postcast analysis. I'm going to ask you to look into your Cam Stuart crystal ball for a moment, folks. I'm going to ask Cam to be the prognosticator of prognosticators here. What do you believe is going to be the lead story of this game when the Locked On Patriots postcast debuts right here on the Locked On Podcast Network?
I hate to be so simple with it, Mike, but it's got to be 2 versus 3. Daniels versus Maye, and we'll see how much Daniels plays because he's already been named the starter for Washington, so who knows? He might not play all that much. But it's looking no further than the quarterback because if Drake Maye goes out there, first off, he's going to obviously have more snaps than Jacoby Brissett will, and he goes out and has even some more improvements from that week 2 matchup against Philadelphia where he looked pretty solid. It's gonna be a long couple weeks of prognostications of hey, why isn't this kid just going out there week 1? Let's just see what they got. They're gonna stink anyway. We're gonna hear all of that for the next couple of weeks, and so it is simple, but I can't look any further really than the quarterback to be the top storyline. And even if they do, Drake Maye and Jaden Daniels play the same amount of snaps and Drake Maye just looks a little bit better, that, of course, will be a talking point on ESPN and whatever else, and that'll be blown out of proportion, I'm sure. But I think it's no further than the quarterback. I think what you've got from this defense mostly. I did think it was kind of interesting, at least in week 1 of the preseason against Carolina, where they were just blitzing all night. It was like, remember
Mm.
the Titans or something. They were just, it was like 60 to 70% blitz. It was like, whoa, I mean, you're going against Carolina's thirds here. What's happening? So I don't know if that's really a concerted effort to be like from DeMarcus Covington to say, hey, this is how we play. And we're going to do it in the preseason and in the regular season. It obviously it dipped a little bit against Philadelphia. So we'll see what that is like in this week 3 matchup. But yeah, Drake Maye, what can you show me, kid? And Jacoby Brissett, what can you show me, kid? But probably looking in the opposite direction of, hey, anything that Jacoby Brissett does wrong, we're going to have the notepad. We're going to write it down. We're going to say, hey, X, Y, and Z, this is why Drake Maye should be starting week 1. But I think we'll see a lot of that in terms of the takeaways from this matchup against Washington.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head. I don't see in what different direction you could possibly go. Awesome stuff, and I'm definitely looking forward to it as well. I think an honorable mention here is going to be the offensive linemen and the offensive line alignments. We heard Scott Peters say earlier that in Cleveland they used 11 different combinations in that year. So we were hoping that the New England Patriots don't have to go that route and shuffle the decks that much, but ultimately, who's going to be protecting the number one guy? Who's going to be aligning with the ones? I think that's going to be telltale as to how the Patriots see these reps being divided as you enter the regular season. And also, don't sleep on the battle between Joe Milton and Bailey Zappi. Will Milton get the opportunity to earn that number 3 spot, or do the Patriots even consider the option of carrying 4 quarterbacks? Jacoby Brissett goes down with an injury, and you're trying to protect Drake Maye, and you need a solid veteran to be able to make spot starts. I love the excitement of Joe Milton. I think he should absolutely be a member of this team, but he's not a veteran yet. He's a rookie. Mm-hmm. Does Bailey have to step in, and do you have to roster him in order to keep him here? Maybe he won't sneak through to the practice squad because of the reasons we talked about earlier and teams being so quarterback needy. So much to think about, so much to look at. And you know what, folks? So much to tune in for right after the Patriots and Commanders are done here on the Locked On Podcast Network, because you're going to want to tune in to my good friend Cam Stuart, who takes the command at the end of the Commanders-Patriots game. But what can I say? Welcome to the fold here. Welcome to the Locked On Patriots family. That postcast is in tremendous hands, and I look forward to working with you in lockstep and in tandem all season long. Before I let you go, please let everyone know a little bit about yourself, where they can reach out to you, and again, just remind everyone about Sunday night and the Locked On Patriots postcast launching here on the network.
Yeah, so it's at Real Cam Stuart on Twitter. That's where I'm posting a lot of my Patriots takes. Also have a kind of internet radio show that is the Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports Network. It's mainly through YouTube. Mike has been a guest on the show before. We just had a long interview with Jerry Thornton, so a lot of Patriots content in there as well. You can catch a lot of that and a lot of my takes through there. But I'm excited to do this postcast. I am someone who watches these games very emotionally. I exchange about 100 texts with my dad throughout every game. We're watching at the same time. And so I'm excited to be able to go on like right after final whistle, not have time to think about it, and let's just spew it out. That's what I'm really excited for. So yeah, you can catch all my takes there. And obviously on the Locked On Boston Postcast, we will have after every Patriots game, like you said, starting this Sunday night. So we're not taking the preseason off either. So very, very excited to be a part of this.
Absolutely, folks, and definitely make sure that you are keeping a sharp eye out for the Locked On Boston Postcast. That will be your Patriots post-game postcast throughout the entire regular season as well. Again, Cam and I are going to be working lockstep on that, but Cam has taken the ball, and like I said, it could not be in more capable hands or more entertaining or informative hands. You guys are going to love it. I'm already a fan, and I haven't even seen it yet. That's how much confidence I have in this gentleman. And, of course, check out the Cam Show. Check out what he does on Locked On Baylor. Both great listens. I've had the privilege of being a guest on his show a couple of weeks ago. It was truly a great time, so make sure to check that out as well. And folks, make sure to check us out here on Locked On Patriots, because not only will Cam have you covered post-game, but we're going to have you covered first thing on Monday morning, breaking down the Patriots either win or loss, or who knows, maybe even a tie to the Commanders on Sunday night. But all eyes are going to be on roster cut downs, and we're going to continue to bring you all of the action each and every day this week, so do not miss a single episode. In the meantime, I want to thank my good friend and colleague, Cam Stuart, for joining me here today on Locked On Patriots, but I want to thank each and every one of you, all of you everydayers, including all of you casual listeners and all of you first-timers out there. Download, subscribe to, and follow Locked On Patriots wherever you're getting your podcasts to make sure that you get the latest episode as soon as it's available. On behalf of Cam Stuart, I'm Mike Debate, reminding you all to stay safe, to stay well, and to be the change you wish to see in the world. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you back here again next time on Locked On Patriots.